So good afternoon, everyone. It's our first virtual career chat 2023, trying the lunchtime slot. So I hope you're all sitting there with a sandwich or a cup of tea, however you go. So welcome to this afternoon. We are focusing on the role of a project manager, but we're going to break it down into the two areas of PM consulting and the contractor delivery space. Also very delighted to have with us this morning two of our very own Billforce candidates. So they are good advocates for Billforce. So sit back, enjoy. Over to you, Angela.
Thank you, Caroline. So welcome everybody to our virtual career chats. I'm Angela Forbes, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to our first virtual chat of 2023. So I hope you started the year drunkenly singing Auld Lang Syne, because 2023 is going to be your year. It's the year you head for ventures new, so a new career and a new life. So these chats are to bring the careers in construction closer to you now that you are transitioning. So we will hear from two incredible veterans, both within the bookends of project management. So we've got contracting and consulting this morning. So we welcome Matt Gardner from Mace Consult and Lewis Motley from the Contractor Reds10. So without further ado, we'll hand over to our first speaker, Matt.
Good afternoon all. It's an absolute pleasure to be given the opportunity by Billforce to talk to you all. It doesn't seem that long ago that I was in the same position, so you have all my sympathies, and I hope what I can sympathies or support, whatever. But I hope what I give you over the next 10 or 15 minutes is helpful. There will be a bit of time at the end for questions, so don't hesitate to ask away, and I'll do my best to answer. So without any further ado, I'll crack on. So, as introduced, I was employed by Mace in November 21 into the PM consulting role within Mace. Bear with me. So what I'm gonna cover on the presentation by way of agenda is just a quick introduction about who I am, where I've been, what I've done, which has led me to where I am today, how my transition was, and some of the things that helped me understand it and navigate it, the culture within Mace, which is similar but sometimes different, so it might be quite handy to take that on board. A day in the life and what I have to do as a PM, and then I'm going to move on to any questions. So next up, introduction. So yeah, my name's Matthew Gardner. Everyone calls me Matt, so I'm pretty easygoing. I did 24 years ex-Royal Engineers, and I was a signaller within the Corps, with a bit of a construction background, but not massively. So going into consult really suited me. After 24 years of experience, I was surprised to learn I had quite a lot of transferable skills, which I use day to day now. So as I said, I'm in PM consult, and our client is the Ministry of Justice, Mace Justice and Blue Light Department. So we're involved in the accelerated house block delivery program. So in English, that basically means we're building house blocks in prisons as part of the expansion programs for the prison estates for the Ministry of Justice. So it's quite interesting work. Moving on. So transition. It's quite tricky. After doing such a long time in the army, I'm sure there's plenty of people in this audience that have done varying amount of times in the military, whatever service, and achieve whatever rank they've got to. And there's a broad range of experience in this audience, which is amazing. But I'll try to pick out a few pertinent points that come up with me as I was moving through. And first off, it was preparing for that change through COVID after a 24-year career that was very varied and operationally focused, and try and get myself in the right mindset to do something really completely different outside of the military. That's quite challenging after you've been sort of quite stovepiped in what you were doing before. But believe it or not, a lot of the things that we've all done actually stand us in really good stead. It's really important right at the start, and it was for me, to work out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to do it, and to stay positive and not to let the whole thing become a massive issue. So it basically just breaking it down into small steps and making sure I did something every day to get where I wanted to go, a bit like project management, really. So key to that is planning early. So you know, engaging with all the everything that you've got at your disposal. You know, all the excellent support you get in the military. Using all your ELCs intelligently, having a good think about what you want to use them for before you sort of jump in, listening to what other people have done in the veteran community, because believe it or not, there's people you've never even met out there before that have been through everything you're prepared to go through now and are preparing to go through now, and they're happy to give you advice. And I've got loads of that through LinkedIn, so I would push that. So plan early. Get your expectations about locations of where you want to settle, your wage expectations. That was very difficult for me, because it's probably difficult for all of us, because we get promoted, we get paid. It's very different out here. It's all a negotiation. So you need to understand what your standard of living needs to be and the wage you need to pull to match what you had previously. And that's sometimes the challenge that you have to face. And next, I would work out what entry level you want to go in at if you're interested in going into project management and construction. There's no rank out here. Obviously, we all get different experience according to what we've done. And you know, I can open this up a bit, Angela, if it's okay, because it can be quite controversial for some people, because they're used to working at quite a high level in the military. They might find that a bit of a struggle outside. They might actually find that they can walk straight into a fairly senior role pretty quickly. But I did want to draw out on this presentation that, you know, the expectation management of what you're prepared to deliver out here might be different to what you had to deliver in the military. So when I talk about, there's a few abbreviations: assistant PM, PM, and senior PM within Mace. And then from there, you start going into the director roles at senior management level. I came in at a sort of intermediary between an assistant project manager and a PM, and I'm very comfortably working now after about 14 months as a PM and delivering what I need to deliver. But there was quite a steep learning curve for me personally to do that as a PM. So, you know, I could talk about that all day, but that'd be outside the scope of this brief. SPM level, I would say the buck really stops with you on a project. So if you're aiming for that sort of role, you probably need to do some work to find out what the expectations of a business is around that role. Angela, can I just ask you to comment whether I need to sort of elaborate on that anymore, or whether that's enough on that point?
Yeah, no, that's great, Matt. One or two questions coming in, so we'll pick them up in the Q&A.
Yeah, okay, no problem. The next thing that stood me in the best stead was networking. Network, right from the start. As soon as JPA says you've got a year left, get on LinkedIn, sort out your CV, and meet as many people as you can, as humanly possible, that have been through what you're about to go through. And that's me included. If you want to look me up on LinkedIn, I'll be more than happy to accept you if you drop me a quick message. Because all that advice is out there, and nothing we do in life is new. It's all been done before. So all of these people will help you. And you'll find that there's a wealth of knowledge out there, and any questions or doubts you may have in your minds, you know, someone else has been through it, and they can help you out. So I would push that very hard. Network right from the start. Career tangents and partnership, we all know about that. You've probably all got experience of it. I didn't particularly use it very much. He helped me out with a CV, and they give me a bit of an idea of what I wanted to do. But what really cemented it for me was the support that Bill Force gave me right from the offset. You know, they helped me, you know, massively with my CV, how to prepare it, how to tailor it towards a specific role. They looked at my transferable skills, and they matched it against what the sector would expect that I wanted to go into. And you know, phone call after phone call and support after support got me to the position I'm in now. And if it wasn't for that, I may well have done fine in another role somewhere else. But if it wasn't for Bill Force, I wouldn't have this job, because they gave me the introductions I needed and all the advice and support I needed to get there. So thanks for that. So engage with Bill Force and engage with whoever you can that can give you the advice you need to get you where you want to go. So that's the advice and support bit covered off. Last but not least, on the transition, another important point is qualifications. Everyone's going to be different here. Use your enhanced learning credits wisely. Don't be in a rush to spend them. You can spend them after you leave, and you can offer them to the business who can put you forward. I had project management qualifications in the APM, so PFQ, and various others within the APM. And the business has supported me in that. I wasn't necessarily expected to have them. My hiring manager really just wanted to know who I was, what I was about, and wanted to get a feel for me. And he was quite happy with that. So he then offered me a role. So I was quite lucky. Qualifications are not the be end and end all, but they do demonstrate your knowledge and your dedication to what you want to do in the future. But again, that's a whole separate point. Some employers expect you to be degree level trained, many others don't. I decided to do that as part of my transition about 5 years out. But that was just my choice, and it stood me in fairly good stead. So moving on, the culture within Mace. One of the reasons I wanted to work for Mace is because it offers a really good transition to ex-military personnel, and they're really keen on employing ex-military personnel. They fundamentally understand what we bring to the party, and they're not necessarily as interested in the technical knowledge you might have in construction. They're more interested in your more soft skills that you have towards stakeholder management, your robustness, your ability to deal with situations that might make other people a bit uncomfortable. They know that we can do that because we do it every day in the military. We don't realise we're doing it, and we don't realise how important that is until we actually get out and we start interacting with a whole host of different people across a broad network of stakeholders we have to deal with. It really stands you in good stead. So use that as a sell point. Mace is very inclusive. There's a broad range of cultures, people from all over the world. It's a multicultural company, huge company with many opportunities, not just in project management, but in all sorts of different disciplines throughout construction. And it has a massive support network behind the scenes as well, with a lot of very good people that put themselves forward to form support networks. There's a military network which mentors you through your early days, and you can stay in touch. I call it tea and toast. We meet every 2 weeks and we sit down like we did in the Science Mess and chat about issues. And then we volunteer ourselves to mentor people that are coming from the military into the business. There's also other networks, too many to mention now. And there's a very strong focus on line management and reporting. It's very similar to the military, not too different. There's no stupid question I've found since I've worked for Mace. I can always ask the question as long as I do it in the right format and the right forum. There's also a lot of training available within Mace that I've used quite a lot, and it's stood me in good stead, but you've got to be prepared to do it. And there's opportunities to work for the wider community, which has been great for me because I had to relocate to an area where I didn't really know anyone. So now I've got volunteering days within my contract where I can go out and work for the local community. And we can get together as a team in our project team and do that collectively, which is really good. We do work in very close teams in our programs, and in the program that I work in, there are 6 projects broken down into 2 packages, and there's generally a team of about 3 to 4 project managers at various different seniority levels working within that team. So we can break things down, the workload down quite well. One of the reasons I enjoy the consultancy side is because it fits with my work-life balance. It's really up to me in my role whether I work from home or whether I work from the office. That will change as we move through the project life cycle. But I also work on site when required. So hybrid working was something I had to get used to very quickly because I was used to working face to face. I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to push on. day in the life, right? So as a consultant PM, this is what I thought would be the best way of presenting my day in the life. It's all based around the project life cycle, and a construction project is based around the REBA stages, as shown on that slide there. And it starts off from definition right the way through to handover, close out, and then use. And it's quite a defined project life cycle at the moment. My project's at stage 4, which is technical design. It's just about to go over the wall to the contractor to actually build it. So right throughout that, we're consulting the client on the progress of the project, and we're running the stakeholder management for the project, and we're doing all the reporting and etc. that needs to happen to enable us to go through each gate of the REBA process. And if you look to the right of that slide, you'll see that REBA process from 0 to 7. And you can imagine the stage gate reviews as we go through. So really, it's all about stakeholder management. You've got to be happy to talk to people, ask the questions, and manage the situation. And that can break down into sort of 4 different areas. And that could be chairing meetings up to 40 or 50 people sometimes, managing those meetings and minuting them and taking actions from them to make sure you progress. You then liaise with the client and manage the client expectations against delivery. And then later, when the contractor come in, i.e. the people who are actually going to make the design rule and build it, you manage the contracts that the client has with the contractor. And in our case, the contractor is Kia, and it's working to Mace. They're going to build it for us. And on top of that, we also deal with the design team as we go through the various stages. A big design team there, where you've got a design team project manager working for Faithful and Gould on our PSP framework. And they manage a whole bunch of other stakeholders who deliver the design from the outset through to it going over the wall to the contractor. A big part of the job is documentation and reporting, so that we can manage the project throughout and report progress to the client, manage the program, make sure things are delivered to time, quality, and cost, which is basically project management in a nutshell. And what was very new to me coming out of the military was the commercial aspect of being a project manager. So now I'm dealing with contract management and money, which is different to the military. But again, that's a subject I could talk about all day. But that is really, in a nutshell, the day in the life of what I do as a consultant working at Mace. There's a lot more, but it's really geared around that REBA process, liaising with the client and the contractor and the design team to ensure we get delivery to the program to time, quality, and cost. And that is it in a nutshell. A bit of a fast-paced introduction to it, but that's where we are. So if you weren't to do anything else, I would have a look at the REBA life cycle, because that explains it. And last but not least, and that went pretty quick, Angela, questions?
That was perfect, Matt. Timed brilliantly. Well done, you. Thank you very much for that. Questions have come in, so we'll pick that up after we've heard from Lewis.
Smashing, Angela. Yeah, so as Angela just said there, so I'm a project manager for Reds10. Many of you probably on the call don't know who Reds10 are or who we deal with, and so on and so forth. So we're not as a huge organisation like Mace. However, we are a bespoke volumetrics modular build organisation, currently based down in London, Slough, and up in Driftfield as well. So I'll just kind of give you a little bit of background about me, about the organisation, echo a couple of Matt's points and a couple of experiences what I found in regards to that transition process, and then I can hopefully kind of go through a little bit of competency matrix in regards to a project manager, site manager, and then a day in the life of a project manager on the delivery side. So a little bit about me. I'm ex-forces, British Army. Used to serve with the REME for 5 years, and then left around about 2 years ago, stupidly, probably in the middle of a pandemic. So for me, my experiences of transition was a little bit different. I think, you know, the kind of the big question of like what I really wanted to do kind of went into a little bit of the side, and my kind of main focus was really trying to get a job in an organisation what I kind of enjoyed. But it was a little bit of a rushed process just due to where we were in the world at the time. So I did work for a big consultancy company straight out of the army, and then I've just recently changed about a year ago to kind of the delivery side. So that's kind of a little bit about me. I am a huge advocate in Buildforce. As Angela did say, about 2.5 years ago, I was in your position as a candidate for Buildforce. So I do advocate everything what they do, and just use their networking, their mentorship as well as much as possible, because it really does assist in the process of that transition. So in regards to Reds10, who are we? We are a principal contractor based basically in London there. And we're a volume metrics modular build organization. So think about kind of pieces of Lego, building that currently on a construction site, but built first in a factory up in Driftfield. So we bring it all the way down to site, a big logistics supply chain onto the site, and then we construct that on the construction side. So again, we're kind of a full turnkey solution. So our roles are vast. We have design managers, we have project managers, we have labourers on the sites. We have our site managers. We also have the tradesmen as well in the factory, with a vast quantity of experience as well. So it's a broad spectrum when you kind of go onto the principal contractor side, and there's loads of different jobs and opportunities which hopefully will fit if you seek that side of life. Our missions and goals, it's kind of a classic really, but it's all about kind of shaping the future of the construction industry and how we do our business. That's one of our main goals for Reds10. The construction industry can be a little bit slow and hard to adapt, and we're trying to find a solution for that. So it's also all about our customer experience as well. So here at Reds10, we have a project management arm, which is almost like a hybrid of a kind of consultancy and the principal contractor. So we do pick up on quite a lot of tasks, actions, what Matt was there in regards to engaging with the client, understanding what the client's specifications are, and building towards that. I just want to kind of echo Matt's points in regards to transitioning, and one of the big things what I found in my journey specifically is actually finding out what I want and what I enjoyed about in the military and that working environment, and trying to transfer that over into my current role now. So when I kind of sat down and realised kind of what I wanted, probably about a year already into moving from the armed forces, it was all about culture for me. So asking the right questions during the interviews, understanding actually what is that hybrid working environment, what is that office lifestyle like, how many times will I be going to the site. I think everyone who leaves the armed forces is leaving for their own reasons, but one of the kind of consistency what I found is everybody wants kind of stability. So you really kind of need to understand, what does stability mean to you, and is the construction industry within that specific role going to give you that stability? So if you don't want to be driving and commuting like an hour and a half every day to a construction site, perhaps being a principal contractor might not be the correct role or kind of company for you. So you just need to kind of understand that as well. And then secondly is the culture as well. Now we're post out of the pandemic. It's I've seen quite a lot of people from Buildforce win the mentoring scheme, and one thing what they do missing about the army or the armed forces specifically is that engagement with soldiers and officers alike, constantly on day to day. So if that's one thing what you really enjoyed about the armed forces, but you've got a working from home kind of job scenario, then it also might be not the place for you. So it's just understanding what you really want, and trying to ask the right questions in the interviews, and try to find the right organization for you to match your culture. So yeah. Moving on to kind of some of our past projects here at Reds10, we're predominantly a public sector organisation. We have an education sector, working for the client for the Department for Education. We have a healthcare sector. We also have a Ministry of Justice sector, and a defence sector as well. So as you can see from the bottom left there, we're constructing accommodation on the training estates for soldiers, officers alike, to kind of operate out of those on the training estate. So it's really nice to see that our organisation is giving back to the armed forces as well, and improving the training estates and the accommodation there. So it's really important work, and I find it thrilling, really, to be perfectly honest. So that's kind of be part of the future of construction. At Reds10, that's what we like to think that we are. We are the future of construction. ensuring that the client get what they're kind of asking for. So, you know, from a military defence sector, it's, you know, improving the training state, getting the soldiers better night's sleep. For our education sector, you know, really trying to achieve, you know, children's better education and an education environment. So, yeah. Could this be you? Absolutely. A day in the life of a project manager, specifically in Reds 10, is quite vast. One of the reasons why I moved from consultancy to the delivery side is I wanted to be as close to the decision making as possible. So when we're a full turnkey solution, so we get it from an ITT, from a feasibility report study, which normally the consultants will conduct, hand that over to the client, and then we go in for the ITT. When that kind of hands over to the project managers, we're mobilising our design team, so architects, civil engineers, structural engineers, you know, FF&E consultants, fire, so on and so forth, and we take those specifications from the client, what they're after, what specifications we need to meet, and then we design it from day dot from there. So in that REBA 0 stage, what Mark was talking about, and then we take that all the way from design stage, so coordinating that design with our designers, with the client, and then the end user. So for the Department for Education, the end user would be the school or the trust, so people who are operating out of that. So, you know, we're really trying to get that end user feedback early in the stages of the design, so that we can design a building which is fit for purpose, meets the specification, but also works for that end user as well. So moving on to kind of that, so where you always, and from a project manager side, is always chairing, minuting those minutes, making the decisions on the design, and then engaging with the client of where you are and what you've got, and also the commercial aspect to it, as Mark said there. One of the things is when you kind of transfer from the armed forces over to the construction industry, it is probably a gap of knowledge from the commercial side, whether that be contractual or just dealing with kind of budgets from a design side, or the working towards a budget what the client's got. So that is one of the identified of kind of a steep learning point, is that commercial side. Further to that, from a delivery side, I have currently 4 projects all running, 3 in pre-con and 1 on site currently. So my week is mixed up with different projects, whether that be engaging with the design team or also engaging with our site managers on site, and getting that reassurance that, you know, we're meeting program, our health and safety is to the top level, and that we're compliant, and just really offering the site managers direction and trying to foresee issues in that program and how we can mitigate it. So there's a lot of risk management there as well with it. Obviously, the delivery side is obviously open up to a load of different roles, as I previously mentioned. One specifically, which is a site manager. So their roles and responsibilities are a little bit different. Straight from kind of qualifications really of what you would need there. So if you was looking going into more the site manager side, you know, SMSTS, first aid qualifications, CSCS cards, IPATH, PASMs, all these qualifications to get you kind of that level entry job. Their responsibilities are managing that site every day of the week. So you know, probably being on site at 7:30, opening that site up, engaging with the contractors on that site, whether that be the ground workers, the painters and decorators, you know, the mechanical and electrical engineers on that site. So it is a little bit different, and it's just one thing worth to note on whichever kind of way you go, whether project management or site management, and down there. We do engage with our supply chain, which is one of the kind of the big principal jobs, as well as the project manager or part of the commercial team on delivery. So engaging with that supply chain is key, making sure they're compliant and what they're delivering to the specs, commercial elements of that, and kind of so on and so forth. But it is an additional a task really from the delivery side, one which I kind of really actually do enjoy getting into that. So kind of moving over to what what we offer here at Reds10. Currently, these are just the current openings. We are a hugely growing organisation, so we've got roles from project manager, assistants, quantity surveyors, operation leads, health and safety, architectural technologists, design, and so on and so forth. And then our trades currently up at the factory there. So, please get in touch if you're looking for an opportunity. But yeah, more than happy to kind of take questions or anything you want me to talk about more, Angela, or specifically focus on one area.
Fantastic, Lewis. Thank you very much for that. I'll ask our speakers to join us. Matt, if you can join us. Caroline, you're there. We'll just take that presentation down. The questions have come in, so what I'll do is I'll work through these questions. First of all, if you do have a question, just turn your camera on or put your hand up, and we'll get you to join us. So a couple of great questions that have come in off the back of two brilliant presentations. So thank you very much to Matt and to Lewis. So first question that's come in is, employers are asking for experience in project management that the service leaver feels that the defence guys or the MOD guys don't always have. So is the easiest entry route into a career in project management onto an MOD project? And I'll ask that to both of you. Matt, start with you.
Yeah, happy to go first. I don't necessarily think so. I think it's more about just managing people and people, regardless of what client they are. I think if you come in with an open mind, I don't think it really matters who the client is. I mean, our client's Ministry of Justice. I had no previous experience dealing in that sector before, but I quickly found that it didn't really matter, because I was in a team that had quite a good hierarchy in it. So I had a senior project manager above me, and I was his PM. We didn't have an assistant, but we built a relationship with the sponsor really quickly, and because that showed across the stakeholder group, everyone sort of followed suit. And that's very like the army, when you've got, I hate to coin a phrase, a good managerial network in a squadron or a company. If you've got a good officer commanding, a good site major and a good management team, everything else just falls out and you tend to fit in. I wouldn't worry about it too much, because the projects move so quickly. They're so fast paced that you'll soon fit in, and people will ask you to solve problems. And as soon as you start doing that, they'll value you.
So maybe the employers he's speaking to are being a bit short-sighted, so maybe looking at some others you'd recommend.
I don't know. I mean, in Mace, and I can only speak for them because that's all I've got experience with. I've not come across that at all. I've been brought into every conversation and given time to grow in the role. I wouldn't pick. I mean, as an ex-soldier, yeah, all right, it might be easier working with the MOD because I know how they work. But personally, I didn't want to do that because I wanted to do something new.
And to you, Lewis, do you agree? You're nodding there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Matt says. I think from an employer's perspective, if you don't have like a knowledge of what armed forces brings, and that, I think it's kind of people short-sightedly kind of go, yeah, that would be a great match because they understand the client straight from day one. But I agree with what Matt says there. I've seen people kind of pigeonhole themselves in an MOD sector within the construction industry, and it finds that I think they find it quite hard to get out of. I think possibly joining a different sector rather than an MOD sector will probably steeper learning curve, but your breadth of knowledge at the end result of it would probably be a little bit better. So it depends what you want, really, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, that's a great question, Carl. Caroline, can I just bring you in there? So obviously you're placing these service leavers into the roles. What portion of project managers do you think lands within the MOD sector within an employer?
Yeah, so I find that the MOD sector is more the consultancy space, and obviously that's a really probably an easier place to land in the PM space if you haven't got any construction site experience. So sometimes in Lewis's world, it's going in as a site manager and maybe working up to a project manager, so you've got that understanding of a construction site and how it works. But that said, it is very employer-led, because we've got some employers that do think wider and outside the box and have the attitude that they're looking for leaders. They're looking for people with the right attitude and aptitude, and they know they can teach technical sector experience, or skills. So it really is employer specific. So talk to us. We'll get you connected with the right employers.
Fantastic. Good point, Caroline. Okay, on to David. So he agreed with all the transferable skills and how they are successful and important for the PM roles. However, picking up on something you said, Matt, the commercial skills. So obviously sometimes they're lacking. What advice would you give?
Can I be totally honest?
Yeah.
I found the commercial side of this quite intimidating when I came in. You know, you're dealing with other people's money, and you've got to deliver to time and costs. That's why going with a consultancy side was easier for me to learn that. It's not such a steep learning curve. It's not so contractually led until the sort of later stages of the design delivery cycle, you know, the REBA stages I mentioned. And in an organisation like Mace, as a PM, you're not necessarily doing all those PM functions yourself. As a project manager, you've got experts around you in the business. So we've got commercial experts. I go to them when I need them. I go to, you know, Glee to do our quantity survey, and they do that for me. So what I'm finding I'm doing, I'm generally bringing in a lot of information from subject matter experts and writing contracts or writing documents. But I don't have to make it up and sit there and worry about how to do it, because I generally just need to know who to go to get the information. But it's like a generalist role, and the more you do it, the more experience you get. You start off and you sort of go from zero to hero, and that's where my steep learning curve was. It was the commercial side, because everyone's got a margin they're trying to meet.
Yeah, that's your biggest
Especially when
skill gap.
that was a skill gap. It was where in the army we were always sort of pushing to deliver on time. Now you're doing it to cost.
Okay, and Caroline? Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add, but it's more back to the original question you asked as well. And I know we chatted about this yesterday when we were chatting to Matt and Lewis. Is it's going in, maybe you are a project manager, maybe you're even a senior project manager, but it's going in at the assistant project manager, so you can learn from bottom up. So you learn the boots on the ground, you learn the tools, you learn the sector, you know where everyone sits and everyone's coming from, and you accelerate so much quicker than any civvy, so you'll get to PM, but it's just there to find your feet. Depends, if you want to hit the road ground running, and you can do that, that's great. If you want to go in a little bit more gently, it's like Matt, go in as that assistant project manager and learn your craft.
And Lewis, the question to you, your commercial awareness, how's that progressed?
What, within the role or
within the role? Yeah.
Oh, massively. Yeah, steep learning curve. Like Matt said, you know, there's experts around you and people who specifically sit in that field, and you just kind of got to learn from them. But I think, you know, being proactive, you know, learning about JCT contracts or NEC, you know, getting your head in a book, you know, understanding those contractual obligations, or even how a contract is set up is you just need to be kind of proactive. And I think you can do that as well before you transition as well, and start looking at JCTs and NEC. There's a plethora of information there online where you can learn from. So.
Okay, but an individual can find a role without having those skills. So you're just giving them a bit of faith out there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Lawyer.
Okay, perfect. Next question. You said you were speaking about your first couple of months at Mace, Matt. You mentioned that steep learning curve. So the question is if you could do it again, what do you wish you knew? And how were those first couple of months managed?
Well, that's a good question. I was really nervous before I left the army. I'll be honest with you, I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's a big change in your life, especially for people who do a full career. And we hit the ground running, to be honest. And as my boss, my director says, it's not, project management isn't for the faint-hearted. You've just got to get amongst it, and not bite off more than you can chew. And I did find it very difficult in the first few months, because I was trying to operate at the same level as I was in the military, and I just didn't have the background knowledge. I found them two things hard to bring together. You know, I was used to doing what I was doing in the army, and then all of a sudden I'm around a load of other people who know much more than me about the subjects, and I personally found that quite uncomfortable, but it was also quite challenging. I think if I'd been in a different position and I was left to sink or swim, I don't know how it would have gone, but I was in a team that supported me. So that's what's important. But they will expect you to deliver. So you have to sort of put the time in to learn the craft, because it's that commercial aspects again, Lewis, isn't it? So yeah.
Okay, and then
make
yeah,
sense?
no, excellent, Matt. And the next questions come in just on the Reba plan of work. How did that help you explain a project to a client? Was that your Bible as such?
Yeah, that's a project life cycle we work to, and all the project management skills you learn on your PMQ and whatever route you want to go down to get yourself certified with a professional qualification, they all really feed in and fit into that. There might be slightly different terminology, but each stage is pretty much led by the Reba life cycle, right through to, you know, right through to stage 0 to stage 7, I think it is. Yeah, definitely, especially working through. I mean, I came in at a Reba stage 2 where the design was fairly immature for our job, and now we're on Reba stage 4 where the design is actually now ready to be looked at by the contractor and the design team that people like Lewis manage, right? Or I think that's what you do, mate, isn't it? Right?
Yep.
You know, they're looking at the design to see whether it can be built, and all of a sudden, my job's completely changed. So the next stage will be as a consultant out on the site, making sure it's delivered to program. You know, so yeah, it is very key. If I could learn one thing inside out before I did this, it'd be the Reba stage cycle, and I would go off and qualify myself in the PMQ side of life and do some contracting qualifications. But I did try to do NEC, like Lewis mentioned, but I found I got quickly confused by it, and I didn't really start to understand it until I was doing it day by day. So I'm doing it now. It makes much more sense.
And just on that, the one thing, I'd been a commercial director, the one thing that we did when we were on site was we would run commercial sessions. So every Friday lunchtime for an hour, we would get all the site guys, engineers, project managers in, and we as the commercial team would actually start going through key clauses in the contract just to make you aware, because we studied it for 4 years at university. You're not expected to know it. So as for your commercial team, just to ask them to buddy you and guide you and sit for half an hour, buy them a coffee, kind of 6, 7 o'clock at night, and just work through the contract with you. But as you said, there's modules, there's courses you can go on now, you can visit YouTube just to upskill yourself. And all these forms of contracts we're talking about, every project will have a different form of contract. They're quite similar, but there's fundamental differences between them. So every new project you start on, sometimes you feel as if you're starting again because it's a new contract you've never used before, but there will be similarities with what you've learned previously. A question for you, Lewis. You've been an individual Jack has been told to enter at site manager level, cut his teeth, earn his stripes in that space, and then move into project management. Do you agree with that?
So what are your views entering at site manager or directly as PM? I think, you know, it's the best way to cut your teeth, to be perfectly honest, as a site manager, specifically if you want to be in the delivery side. You know, just understanding packages, understanding, you know, what different types of work packages, how the movement of a site works. You know, you don't learn that if you just go straight into as a project manager and you're working away from home from a site. Like you just don't understand like the logistics of a site. So yeah, I would probably, my advice would be probably similar to Caroline's, would be, you know, get a work placement, have a look, see what a site is probably like first, and then if you don't like it, then come back, you know, readjust and go again. But you know, yeah.
Okay, and then just a kind of similar theme from Will. So just listening into this, does logistics or engineering experience from your military background, is that a prerequisite of coming into construction, do you think? Or were there other skills that you kind of majored on that helped you with your transition?
I personally don't think it's a prerequisite, but it does help just a hell of a lot from specifically my role. Just understanding, you know, kind of a pragmatic view on how the logistics would work and noting it. So, yeah, it's not a prerequisite. It does help a hell of a lot if you those skills what you do bring across. So, yeah.
Matthew, your comments on that?
I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. I think it does help. It depends what your client is. You know, if you've got a lot of, if you're a senior officer and you've been working at a high level in the MOD, you're going to have skills when it comes to working for the client when you come across as a consultant. But it's nothing you can't pick up. I think it's the soft skills that are important.
That's a brilliant point, Matt. Next question, what training can I expect to receive in the role? So I'm just going to tweak that slightly. The first one is, for each of you, what courses did you have as you were transitioning over? And then what courses have you done post arrival? We'll start with you, Lewis.
I'll be perfectly honest. I did a construction project management degree at university before I kind of transferred over. And I've not heard anybody even question me on my degree, so I kind of came over with no qualifications specifically, as in, you know, Prince 2, APM, nothing like that. There's a load of qualifications once you can get in the role, MCIOB, and you can do like a professional route there. So you don't have to have an experience to even get your chartership within, you know, year 5 of being in the sector. So I wouldn't worry about kind of a specific project management qualifications. I wouldn't worry about it.
And to you, Matt?
No, the only time my degree come up was in an interview, and I think my hiring manager was just surprised I was so old when I did it, and I think it just helped me. I think he just saw it as I think he just looked at it as an insight into who I was, because I'd gone out and done it off my own back. And you know, when it comes to qualifications, I did the PMQ before I joined Mace. I'll be honest again, I failed the exam as well. Mace weren't bothered. Right, so they're putting me through it again at the moment. The advice I've had from people in my business is that, you know, you do really need to find some route to be certified and professionally recognised if you want to progress, because it gives confidence to the client that you know your onions, so to speak. So, but you don't necessarily need to, but it will increase your earning potential and your promotion prospects. So, you know, whatever route you want to take, PMQ, APM.
Yeah, just to add on that, Matt, you know, more a sort of a few years back, the PM qualification wasn't as critical as it is now. I think most of our employers now, when they're asking for project managers, are asking for PM. Around LinkedIn recently as to whether that's Prince 2 or APM, and I think this, you know, you're going to have horses for courses, but it seems to be more often than not now it's APM is the preferred PM qualification. Not saying you're not going to get in if you've done the Prince 2, but I'm just saying if you haven't done it, look at the APM opposed to Prince 2.
Can I just add one more thing now? So I mean, if people look for, I mean, this is where you guys help me out at Billforce. I mean, a lot of the people you push us towards, you know, they've got recognition on the military covenant. So I think Mace is gold now. So you know, I generally went straight in front of a hiring manager. I didn't have to go through HR right from the front end of a business. So if you are going through the front end of a business, you're going to get shifted because of what qualifications you got. My hiring manager just wanted to look me in the eye and see that I was the sort of person he wanted to work for him, and lucky enough, it seems I was. So it just panned out well. But it's a bit of luck involved. But this is where you guys at Billforce make the difference, because a lot of people coming out after a long time in the military are not going to have that.
Okay, and this is the benefit of coming through a military programme. So the employer will have signed the Armed Forces Covenant, signed the Billforce Charter, and they're in a space of wanting to employ the ex-military. I'll just ask a couple more questions to you, Lewis. Any wobbles? And for those transitioning, what should they expect emotionally? What was that journey like for you?
I think you just need to be humble as soon as you come in. Understand there's going to be areas where you are going to be weaker than most, but there's going to be areas where you're a lot stronger, and always lead with those competent areas. So, you know, like you say there, and what just Simon's picked up on, whether it be organisational skills or, you know, the soft skills, what Matt's mentioned, you know, play on them in those first couple of months, really lead with them, but also be humble enough to ask questions on those areas, so you can build yourself back up. But don't be defeated if you do have a wobble. Everyone does. So.
And to you, Matt, any heart palpitations at 2 a.m, worrying about the transition?
Yeah, loads. Yeah. Yeah, loads. I mean, yeah, definitely. You just got to crack on. That's the base. You just got to have a plan. You've got to stick to it. And then you've got, like Lewis said, just be humble. Don't come in there thinking you're the best thing since sliced bread. Sort of keep your, my dad used to say, keep your mouth shut and keep your ears open.
And a question to you, Lewis. What did you wish you knew
What do I wish I knew?
Yeah, what do you, looking back at it now
Yeah.
through the transition?
Do you know what? So during that transition, one thing what I kind of wish I knew straight from the early starts was the community out there. I thought it was an absolute myth that people left the armed forces, and there was this huge community out there who people wanted to support you. When I was looking down, I was like, would anybody want to take an hour out of their time to go and talk to, some guy who they were probably there the same position 10 years ago? It just didn't make sense to me that someone would actually want to go out their way to support you. I thought, doesn't happen. So as soon as I left, I was shocked with the amount of support. What Build Force kind of links me with the networking, and shocked that people do want to sit down and do want to talk to you and do want to support you. So, when I was about to leave the army, I wish I knew that, because it's really reassuring knowing that there is a community out there who will support you.
Thanks, Lewis. And to you, Matt, what do you wish you knew?
I don't know really. I don't know how to answer that. The networking piece, like I said, like Lewis, it's just key. I was, I was transitioning out, moving to a completely different location. New house, everything. It all just seemed like a massive problem. And I remember talking to you guys back at the time, and you said just break it down into small chunks. And every day we just wrote things down that I needed to do to get me where I wanted to go. Right, and it's that being humble. You've just got to look at the problem that's facing you, because it's hard work. You need to get a job. You've got to pay the mortgage, right? So that's what you need to do. But honestly, there's loads of people out there, especially on LinkedIn, that will give you their personal time. They will give it up for you to give you that advice, because they know what it's like. They've been through it, and they don't like to see like ex-service people going through it ignorantly on their own. It's not a great place to be, especially because I was in the same position as Lewis. I went through my transition in COVID, so the world felt like a much more closed down, smaller place, and it seemed quite hard. Everyone's telling you there's no work out there. Listen to the positive people and quickly move away from all these negative people, because they're not going to help you. But yeah, thanks a lot. I ain't got much else to say about it. Everyone's going to be different.
We just want to cuddle you, Matt, every time we speak to you.
Really?
Do you know that?
No, yeah.
You as well, Lewis. Do you want to cuddle him?
Absolutely.
Right, last question on pay. So can I ask a kind of yes or no, did you both transition on roughly the same salary you were on? And if not, how long did it take you to get to it?
Who's first?
Start with you, Matt.
I negotiated more than I was on in the military, or you did, Angela. Right, they came back. You guys helped me out of that. So I remember a conversation I had with you. So I quote it again. You said to me, "How much do you think you're worth?" I was like, "I don't know. I haven't got a clue," because everyone's always told me throughout my career what I was worth, and they gave me the wages to sort of match it, because it was really transparent. We all knew what we was earning. It's very different out here. So my take on it was, I didn't want to leave the military and overburden myself with pressure in a job that I wouldn't be able to deliver on. But also, I needed to pay the bills and keep the life I was accustomed to in the military. And I also wanted to earn a little bit more, because I felt like that's what I needed to do leaving, and that's what I managed to achieve. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the yearly pay is going to be the same, but there might be a benefits package that you can negotiate outside that brings you above what you were earning before, and that's what I got. And I'm pretty happy with it. I think it matches. I've just had a very small pay rise, because Mace has given that to everybody for the standard of living crisis that's going on. But
so looking after you.
But yeah, with your pension, you're going to be all right if you've done your time.
And Lewis?
Yeah, but pay's obviously one what everyone kind of worries about. I think when transitioning, I think it's specifically where you're going and what you're doing as well. It's kind of individual as well. Because what I found is leaving the armed forces was my expenses just went through the roof, and I wasn't spending the same thing. So you might have a better pay packet in regards to numbers, what's coming out at the end of the year, but your expenses might increase. So you just got to take that into it and factor into it. But again, it's all negotiable in regards to pay. So like Matt said, try to find out what your worth is and go into it that way. I have found, I don't know, Caroline, if there's any difference between the delivery and consultancy in regards to pay. What I found is that delivery, often pays a little bit more than consultancy. I don't know if you found that, Caroline, or no.
I would just go on Glassdoor and have a look at what people get paid per role and get an idea of what people offer. And then when you go into the negotiation, you've got a starting point.
You've got a metrics. Well, listen, thank you both to Matt and Lewis for their incredible contribution today. The transition from the armed forces to a career in project management will keep you on your feet and give you the challenge that many of you desire. We have heard from excellent employers today as well, both Mace and Reds10, so a shout out to them for continuing to be excellent ambassadors supporting our armed forces. Remember, you are not alone. Belforce are here to support and guide you as you transition, so please keep in touch with any questions that you have, and I'll pass back to Caroline for final insights.
Yeah, thanks, Angela. Just to echo that, thanks, chaps. Really excellent insight into the both sides of PM. I guess for our listeners now, it's down for you to choose which side that is you want to lie in, you want to progress. As we mentioned, work placement is a great way of exploring both disciplines. We can get you a work placement in consult and in contract. So, you know, or as site manager, if you've got that time, if you've engaged early, it gives you time. So we are here to support as required. So next up, we have got an amazing year of virtual career chats and face-to-face events. They're all on our website now, although there are more to add, but the core of them are there. So please do go and visit our website. But next up, we have on the 9th of February is one of our employer virtual career chats, and actually bizarrely that is with Reds10. So you'll hear more from the organisation, their culture, their opportunities, their work. So please do tune in, get booked in for that. So I'm off for going to brace the elements and go for a quick lunchtime run before I get back to it. So enjoy your day, and it's lovely to see so many of you here. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Lewis.
Thanks for having us tonight.
Bye.